Alrighty, friends, we are back. I'm Shayna, your co-host today, along with Tanner, and I'm so excited because we are joined with the beautiful Rachelle Gordon with Greenstate. Welcome. I call you a word wizard.
I love that. I've never been called a word wizard, but I appreciate that. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, we're excited to have you. So just to get started at the top of the new year here, kind of tell us a little bit about your background for one, and like, how did you become a word wizard?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm actually not a classically trained journalist. I actually was in education. Prior to writing, I studied education and social justice. I went to Hamlin and St. Paul and worked in education, early childhood for many years, and ended up having a run-in with the law related to cannabis outside of school, of course. But that sort of derailed my teaching career, and I was looking for other things to do, and I started doing some freelance SEO content writing, sort of as a side hustle. Writing always came easy to me in school, but I never really considered it as a career. And all of a sudden, the legal cannabis industry started happening. I found gigs in that. All of a sudden, it became my full-time job. I was in the right place at the right time, the right number of times. Mm-hmm. And then fast forward, I'm traveling the world writing about cannabis. So it's been a real blessing.
That's amazing. So I noticed, and you mentioned that you attended Hamlin, and I had peeked in your background, and you have like a social equity. So kind of talk about like, how does that intersect with your social background and education, and how that's helped you in your writing, and especially as a woman in this space?
Yeah, definitely. I always approach my writing as a way to educate the masses. I mean, entertainment as well. There's some fun, punchy, voicey sort of stuff in there. But above everything else, I want to educate people about this plant and be a good steward of the plant as well. And keep restorative justice in the background at all times, because I know how lucky I was, considering what I was facing legally, that I was able to walk away from that without a felony record. And that's a blessing in and of itself, right? And so I always keep humble and remember that, and try to keep that lens on as I'm moving forward to make sure that I'm putting out content that is fair, that is equitable, and that is accessible as well.
Right, absolutely. So you've traveled, written for some major kind of platforms, from MG Magazine, Cannabis and Tech Today. Kind of talk about those experiences and what it's been like to, really share your insight to those platforms.
Yeah, it's been cool to speak to different audiences within cannabis. Mm-hmm. So MG, Cannabis and Tech Today, those are more business-to-business publications. Mm-hmm. So talking to the industry, about the industry, different innovations, business news, things like that. That really gave me an interesting perspective from the inside of the industry. And now working with Greenstate, it's more consumer-focused. That's really, really been fun, too, because I'm a consumer at heart. And those are the people that I really want to educate, and not just consumers, but the canna curious and what I call the canna curious adjacent.
I love that.
People who maybe aren't interested in cannabis, but who could benefit from some information about it.
Right, yeah, the knowledge base. And you had mentioned about fun, so tell us a little bit about your experience with Lucky Leaf Expo and that series.
Oh yeah, we love Lucky Leaf Expo. Shout out to Chad and Claudia at Lucky Leaf. They do a great job. They put on an amazing show. We went to their New Mexico event in Albuquerque. I got to interview Tommy Chong. That was awesome. And they just, they put on a really dynamic conference. They have lots of interesting programming, lots of cool vendors. I'm really excited for their Minneapolis show coming up. I know there's going to be a great turnout. I know there's huge interest in Minnesota, both from the outside and then the inside as well. So I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of big companies coming to Minnesota, but then it's going to be great to see the locals show up as well. So I'm super stoked for that.
Yeah, that's amazing. So Minnesota is 23rd in legalization, but we often like to call ourselves as innovators. I think we're very unique. So looking forward to 2024, what do you think of Minnesota cannabis industry now that we're legal, and what are some areas of opportunity that you think that we should, work on or maybe address that you see maybe an opportunity for others?
Well, we definitely need to get the regulations out, right? First and foremost, we need to know what we're dealing with. People are ready to get their ducks in a row, so to speak, but we can't do it if we don't know what the rules are going to look like, what the applications will look like. So I'm definitely excited to see how that plays out so that people can start preparing for licensure. I do want to make sure that people here in Minnesota, they stay strong, they stay to their roots, which they're doing a great job of, but also be open to the fact that people from other states do have things to contribute. I hear a lot of concern about outsiders coming into Minnesota, and I share those concerns as well. I don't want MSOs running the show, but I do think that there is value in people who have experience in other markets, especially ancillary providers.
Right.
So I want to make sure that we're keeping an open mind, that everyone has something to contribute, even if they may not be from Minnesota. But we have an incredible knowledge base here and an incredible passion. We've built something so unique on the national level. People are really, really excited about the work that we've done here and the work that we're going to continue to do. So I'm definitely stoked to see the licenses go out and to see the excitement from the consumers, because they're going to show up in full force. They already are.
Right. Yeah. So you're talking about on the national space and MG BizCon 2023. And for those who are not familiar, kind of talk about that. And what was your experience like attending that?
Yeah, MJ Biz is the biggest cannabis conference of the year. You know, tens of thousands of people show up, and it's a little overwhelming, right? It's a whirlwind for sure.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, it's wild, but it's like a big reunion, you know, which is really cool. And you get to see the latest innovation. You get to see a lot of ancillary tech. You get to see a lot of great bud. I mean, obviously not so much on the showroom floor, but there was a little from the autoflower folks I saw on the cultivation side. That was great. But it's just a joy to be around so many cool people. And this year, the floor was a little bit quieter than previous years. But I think part of that is just that, you know, budgets are really, really tight nowadays. And going to a conference is so expensive. So I can understand why it was a little quieter. But the people who were there were very, very enthusiastic and optimistic about 2024 and some of the opportunities that we're seeing in cannabis. We were suffering a little bit of a lull for a bit. But now I think people are cautiously hopeful for the future. And I think the energy was really, really electric. It was a lot of quality, not quantity.
Very cool.
Yeah. So go ahead.
What were some of the things that stand out from MJ BizCon? Like, were there any vendors or businesses or brand stories that you connected with or heard more about?
One thing that I saw was a lot of synergy. You know, people are understanding that we're better together. And we don't necessarily have to have this scarcity mindset that I think was sort of permeating cannabis for a while. And I understood why it existed, right? Like, we were in dire straits, you know, for lack of a better term. People are going under, you know, they're struggling. People are losing their farms in the Emerald Triangle, right? There's a lot of suffering. But I think that people started to realize, hey, if we come together, if we partner up, we can make this thing work. And I was really happy to see that, honestly. As far as new innovations, so there's this company called Sorting Robotics, and I'm a big fan of theirs. They make, they have these robots that can infuse blunts, and they came out with a new robot that can make keef dipped joints. Like, that was really, really cool. Yeah, they're amazing. They hand them out, and you're just like, whoa, like, I don't even know if I can manage this thing. It's like a lot even for a pro. And that was cool. As far as the activations, Blazy Susan actually had a cool activation on the floor. They had a speakeasy and a bus. On the conference room floor. It was like, you very, very, very rarely see consumption in a conference. So that was kind of cool. Like, if you know, you know, sort of deal.
So you've kind of explored, you know, MJ Biz and Lucky Leaf Expo. What are some other events that people in the industry, you know, should check out throughout the year that you think from a smaller scale or even as, you know, as big as this one? I know MJ BizCon is the largest, but on other scales, what do you suggest?
Well, I mean, obviously we got to shout out the Legacy Cup, right?
Yeah, shout out.
For sure.
We love what they're doing. You know, Josh is doing amazing work, and that's been just an incredible thing to see that show grow. As far as on the national scale, MJ Unpacked for the business to business, they do a fantastic job. They're more focused toward brands, retailers, and investors, but they put on an incredible show. They're doing one in Atlantic City in the beginning of April. I would highly recommend going to that. The Flower Expo is going to be happening in Massachusetts and Michigan. Again, more brand focused. And their sister show is Hall of Flowers in California, which is a really incredible and fun show where you can actually sample product. Brands have booths, and they give you vouchers, and you can go to an on-site dispensary and get product samples. And it's really the only show where you can interact with the product 360 degrees. You can see the packaging. You can see the actual product inside. They have on-site consumption. So those are some really fun shows. And then MJ Biz, if you go to that, Blunt Brunch, these ladies at Blunt Brunch, Adelia and Parisa, they've been doing these Blunt Brunch Nationals. It's a really great opportunity for women and men to get together and start out the week strong. They do have regional events as well. I don't think they have any in Minnesota, but I would love to see them come here.
Oh, nice.
Very cool. So you were talking a little bit about the women inclusivity in the Blunt Bunch. You know, you talked about Blazy Susan, another brand that's very women focused. As we sort of look at Minnesota's market, I think there's been a lot of talk about what are the steps that we need to be taking to help really create the industry that we want to see. What do you think is important for us, having looked at other states, to keep in mind as we look at building out Minnesota with an eye towards inclusivity or diversity?
I think just remembering again that everyone has something to offer.
Absolutely.
We all have differences, you know, in lots of different ways, but everyone has a unique perspective that should be considered at all times. And I really would like to see in the Minnesota industry a focus on that equity, a focus on inclusivity and accessibility. You know, it's something that's sort of missing in other states. It is a boys club. However, I do think that there are a lot of strong, incredibly dynamic women in this space and a lot of male allies as well. And so I think as long as we remember that this is a community and keep it community focused, we shouldn't have a problem, you know, making sure that everyone has a seat at the table. I really feel strongly that Minnesota in particular has really strong community roots. And I don't think they'll forget where they came from. I really don't.
Absolutely. Yeah. So tell us about your experience with Boveda. I mean, shout out to them. They're amazing here in the
Save the
Twin
Terps.
Cities. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
What was that like, and what did you do there?
So I worked with Boveda on and off for many years as a copywriter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and did some content creation for them as well. Shout out to Matt Adams, their videographer. We did some really fun things together. You know, Boveda is a really amazing Minnesota company. And I think people don't realize on the national scale that they're from Minnesota. But Drew Emmer, who's their strategic partnerships lead, shout out to Drew, I love you so much. He was one of the first people that I actually met when I got into the national cannabis scene. I met him in Seattle, and I went to their booth, and I saw a 612 phone number on the business card. And I said, hey, 612, what up? What are you doing out here? And got to learn more about the product and the culture over there. And, you know, one thing I can say about Boveda is that they are really strong in their culture internally as well. And it's been really cool to see people recognize what Boveda can do as far as, you know, keeping cannabis fresh. And not just cannabis as well. You know, they do tobacco, they do musical instruments. You can actually put it like in your brown sugar, in your coffee. Yeah. It has a lot of different applications. But especially on the home grow side in Minnesota, as the home grow comes up, people are using it in the dry cure process and for long-term storage. You know, it's a great product, and I'm super stoked to see them continue to thrive and to grow in the Minnesota community and go back to their roots. It's been really fun to see.
Yeah.
That's very cool. So there's been some chatter on social media, and I want to give you an opportunity to address it because I think it's sort of not based in absolute fact. And so there were some comments linking Greenstate and William Randolph Hearst, someone who was connected to criminalization. And I sort of wanted to ask you what your thoughts are, but more so what the experience like has been working sort of loosely related to someone who perhaps has ties to criminalization, and what it's like sort of being the voice bringing that into the future.
I'm really glad that you brought that up. Greenstate's parent company is Hearst Newspapers, which was, founded by William Randolph Hearst like 100 years ago. And I admit that when I was in the process of getting the job and interviewing, I wrestled with it, right? Because I know the history, right? I know that he published some wild things in his newspapers to fan the flames of prohibition, right? But what I saw was a bigger opportunity to get things right in this generation and moving forward. You know, I mentioned earlier, I'm really, really passionate about education. And there are so many people out there who don't know what this plant is capable of. They don't know the truth. Yeah. And the fact that Hearst is such a mainstream, massive company with such reach, I thought this is a way to break into the mainstream and do it right. You know, I talk a lot about my dad. When I was little, he had really severe epilepsy, and he wasn't responding to medications. He went in to get a surgery that can correct the brain when it's epileptic, and he had a massive stroke, and he ended up paralyzed and brain damaged. He was like in nursing homes and group homes my whole life. He passed away in 2020, long-term complications from the stroke. Knowing what we know now about cannabis and epilepsy, I can't help but wonder if maybe if we had known that the plant could maybe have saved his life.
Yeah. Right.
You know, and I think about him when I do this job, because thinking about a person like that who was like in rural Wisconsin, they're not going to High Times for their information. High Times is doing great work. Cannabis Now doing great work. MG doing great work. Beard Bros, they're all doing amazing work. But there needs to be a consistent voice for cannabis in the mainstream. And that's the opportunity that I saw. So while I obviously have feelings about William Randolph Hearst, it's a bigger picture play for me and a bigger opportunity to educate the masses. And I think that's what people might not understand about Greenstate, and I wish that they would, that maybe things were wrong in the past, but we're getting it right now.
And I so appreciate you saying that. I mean, I think of when Erin Dupree, who is no longer our director, but when she was appointed, there were some people that said, like, yeah, but her grandfather voted for criminalization. Like, she shouldn't be the director. And her whole point was, no, we're moving forward. Like, we should be celebrating that we've come so far in just 100 years. And I think this is very much on the same point of, is it perhaps tied in the past to prohibition? Yes, but do we see that green future coming out of it? Absolutely. And thank you for being part of that.
Absolutely. I appreciate that so much, and that recognition, because it's true that while people want to chirp about Greenstate, I know deep down in my deepest of hearts that my intentions are good, and that Kara Wheatstock, our senior content producer, her intentions are good, and that we're doing good work, and that if you see what we're doing and the fact that we're able to syndicate this content onto mainstream newspapers across the country, people who might not have access to cannabis information are getting it now. Yeah. And I'm really proud of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Being the voice for cannabis in the mainstream.
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned about on a larger scale, and I know you've paid attention as, being a writer, and Joe Biden, he's made some progress, and a lot of, there's been some, different opinions about that in terms of whether it's optics or if he's doing enough. What are your thoughts on that from that level, and where would you like to see, obviously from a diversity and equity position in terms of where we could be in the next 5-10 years?
I really, really hope that we see significant reform sooner than later. I did find it interesting that President Biden tweeted that no one should be in jail for cannabis, and yet it's still illegal and it's still a Schedule I substance. And so I really want to see him make meaningful change. The pardons are great. The rescheduling conversation, I have my own opinions about that, but any conversation is good. That's progress in and of itself, as opposed to just sweeping it under the rug. But I do think that more needs to be done. Congress, there's a lot of talk in Congress about safe banking, right? What is that going to pass? And so far, nothing's really happened. And personally, I would like to see them just deschedule cannabis altogether, regulate it more like alcohol and tobacco. That's my personal sentiment. Do I think that rescheduling to Schedule III could have potential opportunity for the industry? Yes, but it just doesn't go far enough, and especially with the social justice side, it just doesn't do enough. We need legalization, we need expungement, we need people to get out of prison.
Oh, absolutely, and that's why voices like yours and here at the Cannabis College, we really focus on bringing people together. We're all from different backgrounds, but let's get to some fun questions coming up on 2024. Yeah. And at the end of last year, we kind of talked about like our goals, New Year's resolutions. I'm a person, I'm all about vision boards, and I set things throughout the year. But what about you, Rachelle, from a personal and professional level? What are some of the things we can anticipate from you, and what would you like to share about to look forward for in the new year?
I should probably start setting my intentions for next year now that I think about it. Because last year, I said to myself, I want to do something mainstream. I've been talking to the industry for many years. I want to do something mainstream. And then the Greenstate Hearst opportunity came up. You don't get more mainstream than Hearst, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, well, if this is presenting itself to me, I should probably take it right? So what I'd like to see is just more content coming out. I'd like to see us doing more dynamic types of content, more podcasts, more videos, more product reviews. I think that's a lot of fun. And just expanding and reaching more people. Personally, that's what I'd like to see. I usually don't love setting goals for myself. I'm a little goal averse, but but I would like to see our traffic increase selfishly, and just so that more people see what we're up to. And I also hope that more people can understand where we're coming from and our passion for the plant. That's one of my main hopes. And just on a higher level, I hope that Minnesota can continue to grow, that we can see the regulations come out, and that we can see meaningful reform on a national level, and that we can see more people released from prison. That would be a blessing.
So last year, the great guys here at Dappler Depot, they had asked a fun question about who would you have in your smoke circle? 3-4 people ideal that you would like to see, getting blazed with. One of my people was Rihanna, because I just love her. Yes. But who else? And I would say Wanda James, too. I forgot. Shout out to Wanda James. She's the first Black woman to own a cannabis dispensary out in Denver, Colorado. So I'll add her. I just wanted to add that. But what about you? Who would be in your smoke circle?
Yeah, Wanda's amazing. Yeah. Shout out to her. And is it living or dead?
Living or dead.
Or fictional.
Or fictional, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
opening it up. Yeah.
Man. Okay, that is tough. Okay, so I'm a huge Oscar Wilde fan. I don't know if Oscar Wilde...
I have a quote in one of my emails, one of his quotes. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Which
we'll
one?
have to talk about that.
Yeah.
I won't steal your thunder.
Well, offline about that. 2 Oscar Wilde fans up here. I don't know if he smoked cannabis. I kind of assumed that he would be the type that maybe would try maybe a little hashish here or there. So that would be fun just because he was so witty. I think that he would have a lot of interesting things to say. And I'm one of those people, when I'm in a good sesh, I want to have a lot of conversation. I feel like he would be a conversationalist for sure. Have you ever seen the movie Harold and Maude? You guys know what that is?
Yeah,
you know what
that is? A classic for sure.
Yeah, that's my favorite movie.
Really? I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, you definitely should. Don't look it up, okay? Just watch it blind.
I'll do that.
Just watch it and pay attention. That's what I was told to do, and it changed my life. So Maud, one of the main characters from there, I feel like she was a cannabis consumer. There was a scene where they smoked some hookah. That could be fun to hang out with her. A third person. Well, they said Barack Obama, he admitted that he smoked cannabis.
The Choom Gang, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So
Isn't there a picture floating around? I don't know if it was a cigarette or if it was actually a joint, but it's a pretty cool picture of him.
Yeah, he looks lit in that photo for sure.
I like this. It's a diverse group. I like that.
Yeah, that could be fun just because to be the first president who openly consumed cannabis. Although I guess George Bush was yeah, I did cocaine, whatever.
Yeah,
but to be able to speak to someone who was a world leader who was yeah, I smoke marijuana and I got elected and I do things that would be really cool.
Well, Willie Nelson was on my list too, and I'm pretty for sure I read somewhere that he said that he smoked on the rooftop of the White House.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Allegedly with Jimmy Carter's son. Allegedly.
Let me put that out there. Yeah. I don't want to get any letters or anything.
No, but the Obama one I think is so good. And a story that I've heard before is they've spoken to some of his friends from when he was in high school. And he was allegedly that guy who would interrupt the circle and would just going to quick grab that real quick.
The
all right,
scavenger.
then we can keep going. Yep, just a quick pit stop. So
that's hilarious. No shame. No shame.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to take a quick break and then we'll be back and try some products.
Ooh. Can't wait.
All right, and we're back. So we've been talking a lot about some of the national news going on in cannabis, talking about some of the big stories, but I had a question for you. Yes. You're really here as our consumer expert, and I want to know, when you personally go and look for products, you've tried products in more states than I've personally been to, what do you look for when it comes to a high-quality cannabis product?
So for flower, I really like stuff that comes from regenerative agriculture. I'm a big fan of sun-grown, sustainable agriculture. When it comes to concentrates, I do like rosin, but I do consume BHOs for sure. In fact, I kind of get a little angry about the whole solventless versus solvent-based thing, because I feel like BHO can actually be safer than rosin in a lot of ways because you are remediating it. Whereas rosin, it's if they're using dirty flour or gnarly water, it's that's going to pass through. As far as edibles, I've been really on a bit of a low sugar kick. So I've been trying to find more savory edibles. I also definitely prefer ones that either have live resin or rosin, only because the whole plant experience really hits differently than a distillate. I do see the benefit of distillate, especially when you're doing something at scale and you also want to mask the cannabis flavor. But I know, like, my fiance, he wants his edibles to taste like weed, and I guess I feel a little bit the same way.
Totally get that. Awesome.
But yeah, fun branding, something different, something unique. I see the product that we have in front of us. It's very different.
Yes.
The freeze-dried ice cream, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's what this is?
Yeah, so people a little bit later in the year will be able to hear our interview that we got with Stefan from Cornell Urban Agriculture, but we're going to try some of these products today that he left behind for us. So each of these are the Space Ice Cream, a freeze-dried ice cream that he makes here in Minnesota, made with product that he grows in Minneapolis. So we're going to be able to try these. We got 3 different flavors in front of us. I've got the banana cream pie. What flavor do you have there?
I don't have
right there.
Oh, ice cream.
Yeah, the sea salt dark chocolate is yours.
Oh, and I had the sea salt caramel.
There we go. Well,
Wow.
you're our guest. Is there one that you want to try first, or?
I'm actually all about the
it's
sea salt
underneath there. I'm
caramel.
sorry.
So I'll definitely try that. I've been dying to try this product. I've been seeing it around. I'm a big fan of what Cornell's doing. His flour is incredible. And I know this is something that's very different. I'm not a huge gummy person. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, something different, something unique. Like, this is something that would attract my eye at a dispensary in another state for sure.
Yep, right.
So
The packaging is pretty.
Yeah, well, feel free to bust it open. We'll
right.
give
Start
these a
with that
try.
one.
Yeah.
let's try this. Yeah, and I'm liking the sugar content. It's not aggressive. Some of the edibles and drinks are so sugar heavy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and they're just little itty bitty.
Yeah, they're just
guys.
little pieces. It's just a little piece of freeze-dried ice cream with some delicious sea salt topping.
Okay.
So again, sea salt caramel.
Yeah, and each one is.
caramel, depending on what region you're
Oh
from.
yeah. So each one is 5 milligrams. It's a collaboration with Legacy. We talked to Josh last week. People went and heard that. If you haven't yet, check it out.
We love Josh. Now, is the medicine in the ice cream or in the topping?
So my understanding is that it's in both. That
okay.
it's sort of a combined medicinal flavor.
So on the front end, I would say it's definitely more caramel heavy, but you can taste the weed once you swallow it, for sure, right? Which I like that. I like the weedy aftertaste. When edibles have that, I'm like, okay.
It's settling in. Okay, let me get this open.
Yeah, I like that. I love the caramel flavor on it. I mean, this is a classic. He's had it for a while, but it's one of those that doesn't really go bad. Like, it's delicious.
Okay,
Yeah.
so next we have sea salt, dark chocolate, and dark chocolate is supposedly great for you. So
There we go.
go there.
All right, I'm just gonna take a little bite of it. I'm try to pace myself. I've actually been doing a lot less edibles lately.
There.
I like that crunch.
See, that's what I was expecting on the first one, for it to be like crunchy with the freeze dried. So maybe this one's a little crunchier. It looks like
Definitely rich with the dark chocolate is settling. You can really taste it. But also I taste the weed flavor right away, like
it's definitely
compared
more
to that
pronounced.
one.
Yes, for sure.
It's more pronounced.
But it is crispier for sure, which is what I anticipated in the first one. So I wonder, maybe this one's a little fresher, or
Yeah, I will say the ones that I've gotten in the past of salted caramel are generally more on this crispy side. So yeah, probably just a fresh bag that Stefan grabbed for us.
it tastes good.
Now, how are you supposed to store these? Like, what did the instructions say? Like, it's just room temperature, or is it okay to like?
So they're best to stick in a cooler place. So like some people keep them in the fridge, but they are shelf-stable, so you should be able to just keep them sort of on your counter, anywhere that's not in direct sunlight.
So what do you have up next?
So then this last one is the banana cream pie.
And see, banana is strong. That's why it's like there's a joke that like never put bananas in like your smoothie because it just beats up every other fruit in there. It's like overpowered. So I'm wondering how it's gonna taste here.
I'm hoping that we get some of the pie. I love pie crust. So that's what I'm hoping for. Now, in each piece has 5 milligrams, which feels like kind of a lot for such a little morsel. And with how delicious they are, I could see you accidentally just like munching them down.
Suddenly you've eaten 50 milligrams and you got to go to a fish concert or something.
It's not as pungent as I thought it would be. It's subtle.
Yeah, you get more banana on the back end,
end.
for sure. Yeah, on the front end, it's more of the cream
Yep.
side. Yeah, it's not an overpowering banana as you were concerned about, right? Yeah, it's nice.
It's not as overpowering.
Yeah.
So which one do you guys think is your favorite?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I think probably for me, the original salted caramel, this one right in the middle, the first one we tried.
Yeah.
It's hard to beat that. Banana
that
cream pie is a
salted
close
caramel,
second,
it
though.
is.
What
yeah.
about you?
Yeah, I would say the salted caramel for me. I mean, they're all great,
They're
but
delicious, yeah.
I'm obsessed with the salty sweet treat though.
Yeah.
Like I just love
So
it.
good.
So yeah, shout out to Cornell, like crushing it over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely
Great
good.
job.
People can check these out, and of course, you can get them all over the Twin Cities. But where do we recommend? At the Dabbler Depot in St. Paul. So come on down, check it out. Pick up one of these bags.
Yeah.
Wow, well, Rachelle, thank you so much for
Thank you
joining us
so
for today.
much. It was
As
so
we come
fun.
into the beginning part of this new year, people are looking to follow along with stuff you're doing. Where would you send them to learn more about some of the works you're putting out?
Well, you can follow me on Instagram at Rachelle the Writer. You can check out Greenstate at greenstate.com or follow us on Instagram at Your Greenstate. You can also hit me up on LinkedIn if you are in the industry or you are looking to get into the industry. I'm an open book. I'm always happy to answer any questions that people may have. And if you have an idea for a story or if you have a story that you want to share with the world, definitely be in touch. We're always looking for new content. We're always looking for fresh ideas and people with hearts that are pure. We want to share their stories. So don't be a stranger. Make sure to reach out.
So Rachelle, the wizard, thank you again for being on the show with us.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. Let's go check out some THC drinks, shall we?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, we'll be right back.